Hello and welcome to today's video. Today we're going to get Chat GPT to attempt a GCSE Maths paper. Now if you haven't already watched the first video, make sure to click the link over there where Chat GPT attempts paper 1 of the GCSE, and you can see how Chat GPT gets on there. Today we're going to have a go at paper 2, which is a calculator paper. The paper that we're going to be doing is the paper from the 6th of June 2019. It's the higher AQA paper. If you don't know what Chat GPT is just one of many new AI softwares that are coming out. This is the one by a company called OpenAI, which has received funding from Microsoft and has just recently been implemented into the Bing search engine. Google also has its own artificial intelligence system similar to Chat GPT. It's called Bard, B-A-R-D, but it has not been released yet. But once that's released, I'd love to do a similar experiment with the Google software as well. If you'd like to have a go at the paper yourself, there's a link to the paper in the description below where you can have a go on your own. Now I'll be typing in these questions into Chat GPT. Chat GPT is a text-based software, so all the information has to be typed in and all the responses will be in a text format. So there are some questions where we might have some difficulty, such as ones with diagrams, ones with graphs, but I'm going to do my best to describe them to Chat GPT. So let's get straight into it. So I asked Chat GPT, would you be able to help me with some maths questions today? Yes, feel free to ask. So we get into paper. We'll get into the paper. Question number 1, circle the point that lies on the curve. And what I've done is I've already marked it so we can talk about Chat GPT's answers as we go along as well. So circle the point that lies on the curve y equals x squared minus 4x plus 1. So which of the following coordinates lie on the curve? And it tells me that minus 1 and 4 and minus 1 and minus 4 do not lie on the curve. Minus 1, minus 2 does lie on the curve, and minus 1, 6 does not lie on the curve. So I circled that one, but that was the incorrect answer, so no marks for that one. The next question is about error intervals, and it talks about the tree being 12 meters to the nearest meter. So the question was there. It says the error interval is from 11.5 to 12.5, which is fine, but all of these answers are 11.5 to 12.5. So I wanted to know about the greater than or equal to signs, or the less than or equal to signs. So I asked, is it allowed to be equal to either 11.5 or 12.5? Now these are just Chat GPT's answers. These are not the right answers. These are what it believes are the right answers. And what Chat GPT said is that the error interval is between there and there. So it is not allowed to be equal to either of them. So then I asked it to pick one of the 4 options, and it said to pick that one. So that's the one I picked, and that was incorrect. The correct one was this one here. Question 3. If 2a is 5 times bigger than b, circle the ratio. So I just copied the question in there and it picked 5 to 2, which was correct. Question 4 was a diagram, so I had to describe it. So in a Venn diagram with 2 overlapping circles A and B, how do we refer to the section where A and B overlap? And it says it's the intersection region, which is fine, but I needed it in symbols. So I said, how would you write that in symbols? So it said A intersect B. So that was that option, and that one was correct. Next came a construction question. So I had to describe the situation. So how would I answer the following question using rulers and compasses? And then I just copied this information, and obviously I can't see this diagram. And then what I did is, this is the information it gave me, and I tried to construct that onto the questions. Most of what it suggested was wrong. The only thing that was worthy of a mark is this line here that we drew, which is an equal distance from B and C. So we got 1 mark for drawing the line from that intersection and that intersection of the arcs. So we got a mark for that line only, so 1 out of 3 on that one. Then it did really well on this one. So Beth drives 200 miles in 4 hours, and I just plugged that information in, and it even gave me the whole working out, and it came to a final answer of 52 miles per hour, which is fully correct, so 3 marks. Question number 7, it says we have a rectangle and I tried my best to describe this rectangle, which I thought I did a good job of, but Chat GPT, I don't think it understood the diagram very well, and it gave me an answer. And initially the first thing it said is, let's call CD X, so this is X, and then from the ratio we know that BC is 2X. No, BC was half, CD is the bigger one. So then I asked the question again, and this time it said, okay, let's call CD X, and then we know that BC is X over 2. So it gave me a completely different answer the second time round. But then I just copied all the information it said. It said that the area was 32, which was the incorrect answer, and none of the working out was worthy of any marks there, so no marks for ChatGPT on that one. Number 8, I asked it how would I sketch this curve, and what are the y, what's the coordinates of the y-intercept. So I knew it wouldn't be able to sketch the curve because it's text-based, but I did ask for the y-intercept, and it did correctly give me the y-intercept, which is 0 and -2, so we got 1 mark for that. Question number 9. So I inputted the table, so I typed in the table here, so I'm just copying in the question, so it produced this table. And then I asked it to describe the data using these words, and it said grouped data. Okay, that was fine, but we needed to circle 2 words. So I said, which 2 words could be used? And it said to use grouped and discrete, which is clearly not. Time is a continuous data. So discrete was wrong, grouped was correct, but because it's a 1 mark question, we got no marks. Then 9b was an interesting question. So I said, what interval contains the median? You must show you're working out. And then ChatGPT asked for more, to provide more information. So I just said, can you estimate the median? And ChatGPT said, no, I cannot estimate the median without further information. So then I said, if you had to pick one of the classes for the median, what would you select? And it refused to give me an answer, so we had to leave that one blank. In the end, I just gave it the 5 options. I said, is it this one, this one, this one, this one, or this one? And even then it didn't give me an answer, so we just left it blank in the end. So question number 9C. What percentage had more than 6 minutes of injury time? It did the calculation incorrectly because more than 6 minutes, it said 12. However, more than 6 minutes should be 45 plus 12. So no marks for 9C there. Then I was expecting it to get number 10 right, because it was just inequalities. So it said the first inequality is there, and then it's given me a bunch of numbers here, but technically -4 is not allowed. Yeah, so it says, so for some reason it said between -4 and 2 inclusive. So if -4 was not there, we could have got 1 mark for this piece of information here. But then the rest of that question, all we had to do is take away 3 from there. But ChatGPT was unable to do that. So the answer it gave was 5, 6, 7, and 8. So 0 marks for question 10. Question 11. I kind of had an argument with ChatGPT here. So it said, let's assume that they share £100. Joe would get 35, and the total amount shared is 65. And then it says that the ratio is 7 to n, so 7 divided by 65 is n over 65, and then it gets 7 equals n. So n is equal to 7. So I said, are you sure about that? And it says, yes, I'm confident with my answer. And then I said, but based on your answers, Joe and Kyle would have the same amount of money. And then it started saying, no, it's not. And I said, but yes, it was. And then he apologized for his mistake, but refused to answer the question. So no marks for that one. Question 12, I input the table here and asked for the relative frequency. So which of these is the best estimate? And it picked 0.4. So I think it picked 0.4 because it appeared twice, but the best estimate is the one that occurs with the most throws of the dice. So this is the most accurate answer, so 0.3 was the correct answer on this one. So 0 marks for that one. Not doing too well so far. Question 13, interesting little question. So what I did on question 13 is I copied the table into Chat GPT, and then I asked it to work it out, and it did some working out. It said the mean for the boys is 25, the mean for the girls was 35, so 35 divided by 25 times 100 is 140%, so the answer is 140%, which is fully correct, so 5 marks. So well done, Chat GPT. Question 14. So it's about making 3-digit codes, and the digit 0 is not used, and also digits cannot be repeated. Initially, it gave me the answer that Ali can make 9 times 9, so 81 different codes, because there are 2 digits in each code, but clearly I said there were 3-digit codes. So I had to tell it again, we are making 3-digit codes. Okay, I understand. So Ali can make 5, 5 and 3, so 75 different codes. But this is assuming that we cannot repeat. This is assuming that we can repeat numbers. And then it tried again, and then it forgot to include only odd numbers, and it just got a bit lost. In the end, it said 5 times 5 times 5 for Ali, 125. 4 times 4 times 4 for Mel, which is 64. When you take them away, we get 61. That was worth 0 marks. Part B, what does it tell you about the actual value of X? The answer is bigger than my answer to part A, was 1 mark, so it got that bit correct. Question 15, I was shocked by this answer here. So I said, where does the line y equals x minus 1, which is this line here, cross each axis? And it says the line intersects the x-axis at the point 0, minus 1. 0, minus 1 is here. Now what's the problem with what it's just said? It says it crosses the x-axis, that's the y-axis. And then it crosses the y-axis when x is 0. So it crosses the y-axis at minus 1, 0. So minus 1, 0 is over here. Alright? So I've labelled that as minus 1, 0, but technically that's 1, 0. So it's got that wrong. So no marks for number 15 there. Number 16, I tried my best to describe this diagram. It did pull out some information, but none of it was worthy of any marks. So we can ignore that one. So no marks for 16. Number 17 was rearranging formula as well as upper and lower bounds. But it just did the rearranging formula and substitution. It didn't take into account that these were rounded to 1 decimal place. All it did was round the final answer down to 1 decimal place and worked out the lower bound of that. So it wasn't right, so no marks for number 17. Number 18, it was a probability question, and if you looked at the probability question in the previous video, it did really well on that, so I was expecting good things from ChatGPT on this one, but unfortunately none of this is worthy of any marks. None of this makes any sense, so 0 out of 3 for number 18. Number 19, I thought I did my best to describe this trapezium and get it to work out the area of the trapezium, but it initially worked out its height wrong. So it's trying to work out the height here, and it's done 15 sine 64, but what it should be is the difference between 15 and 11, so it should be 4 sine 64. And had this been 4 sine 64, this would have been worth some marks. But because of that, no marks. Number 20 was a proof type question, so I was not expecting too many good things from this one. I just copied in what it typed, but even what it typed didn't make any sense. First it said that when you multiply this and this out, you get this, which you don't. And then it said when you factorize this, you get this, which you definitely don't. And therefore it's a square number, so no marks here. Question 21, I described this diagram, and it did everything correctly and gave me an answer of 3.4, and 3.4 was the correct answer, so full 3 marks on that one. Question 22, show that 5 root 3 minus root 12 squared simplifies to an integer. And it started doing it correctly, so it was multiplying it out. So 5 root 3 squared is 75, which is good. Root 12 squared is 12, which is there. And we had a root 60, sorry, I'll do it again here. 5 root 3 times root 12 is 5 times 12, which is 60. So I had the 3 numbers here. So for any one of those 3 numbers, we would get a mark. And then we had to do 75, take away 60, plus 12. For some reason it's done 75 take away 2 lots of 60 plus 12, which meant that the final answer was wrong. So only 1 out of 3 on that one. Question 23. I gave it the information, it did a complicated bit of working out and came to a final answer of 8 over 125. I then told ChatGPT that the answer needs to be one of the following. So then it somehow did the working out again in 5 lines and it came out with the answer 64 to 125, which was correct. Number 24 was a quadratic inequality. Did a lot of working out, but in the end it gave me the answer -6 to 2, which was correct, so 3 marks. Question 25 was a complicated one to do, so I managed to copy the table into there, and then I tried to give it a table for frequency density, but I don't think it understood what frequency density meant. And then I asked it to answer the question. What it did do correctly, it mentioned a 2 here, so because it mentioned the 2 there, we got 1 mark for saying that. And then it also mentioned 8 add 19 is 27, so we got a mark for that. But the final answer was incorrect, so 2 out of 4 for that one, which is not bad. Question 26, I copied this information in and I asked it to work out the values of A, B and C. It does some working out, it seems to be expanding the brackets and expanding out, coming to some simultaneous equations, solving those simultaneous equations, but unfortunately those values were completely wrong. So there was no marks here, so no marks on that one. Number 27, I asked it to work out the value of this. Initially I typed it in wrong, so then I went in and typed it in again over here. So it tried to do some rearranging, but it's actually done the rearranging incorrectly. So there was no marks for that bit there, and then that bit there was also done incorrectly because that times that divided by 5 take away 1 is not minus 0.6. So there was no marks on this one, so we lost 5 marks on this question. And that was the final question. So it's time for the moment of truth. How did ChatGPT do in GCSE Paper 2? Now if you remember, in GCSE Paper 1, ChatGPT scored 41 out of 80, which was around about a grade 6. Unfortunately, ChatGPT has not done anywhere near as well as it did on Paper 1. The score is 23 out of 80. So ChatGPT scored 23 out of 80, so just over a quarter of the marks. Now, I wanted to know what that would be in terms of grades, so I had a look at the grade boundary. So if we triple 23, assuming we got 23 on all 3 papers, that would be 69 marks out of 240. And here are the grade boundaries for this particular paper. So 69 marks would put us in grade 4 territory, a few marks short of a grade 5. So ChatGPT has not done very well on paper number 2. So even though the advances that we see in artificial intelligence are amazing, and its ability to write stories and essays and poems is absolutely off the charts, its ability to do maths is nowhere near as good as its ability to comprehend with language. So if you are planning to use ChatGPT to help you with your maths, I would double check what you're doing, because it's getting almost 3/4 of the paper wrong here. I hope you enjoyed that video. Make sure you hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. And if you've got any feedback, leave it in the comments. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.